Right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Nursing in Nature, Top Herbs for Lactation. We're so pleased that you could join us today. This event is hosted by Healthy Horizons. Healthy Horizons exists to empower breastfeeding families at work and at home, and they are the first company to offer comprehensive lactation at work benefits at scale across North America. We're so glad that you're with us today. Before we jump in and I introduce the speakers, I do want to let you know today we're going to be talking about lactation and herbal supplements for breastfeeding and lactation health. This topic and the advice that we're going to share today is not meant to replace the guidance of your physician. We certainly recommend that you consult your physician for any concerns that you might have. All right, now today we're going to introduce a topic that might be of interest to people on the line with us. Healthy Horizons, in honor of National Breastfeeding Month, is conducting a lactation room contest, and we'd encourage everyone to participate. You're welcome to check that out on our website at healthyhorizons.com/contest. If you follow our social channels, you'll also find out information about that contest there. We'll be giving away $5,000 worth of lactation equipment to upgrade the mother's room of a deserving organization. So you're welcome to nominate an employer that you feel would benefit from that. And then we're also giving away baby prizes for parents. So definitely encourage you to check that out. And everyone who registered for this event today is also already entered into the drawing. So you can increase your chances by sharing this stream and by commenting and asking your questions and participating. So good luck to all on that. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce our two speakers for today. Between the two, Sheila and Pam, there is a combined 50 years of experience in nursing in nature. Sheila, at the bottom of my screen, is CEO of Healthy Horizons. In this role, she brings 30 years of experience providing breastfeeding guidance and education. She is an internationally board certified lactation consultant with an MPH in public education. Welcome, Sheila. And Pam Caldwell, in the middle of our screen, is a certified herbalist, fertility, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and lactation specialist. She's also an ordained minister. She's an angel therapy practitioner, certified intuitive, certified professional spiritual teacher, and Reiki master. Pam's passion is to empower birthing families to help make this magical time of life the sacred event that it's meant to be. Pam is also the owner of Herbal. And now I'm going to hand it over to Pam.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I want to start off with some herbal basics. As not everybody's familiar with herbs and how to use them. Herbs can come in a dry tea form that you make a tea out of. It can also come in tincture form, which is a little squeeze bottle like this. Comes with the dropper, and comes in salve, capsule, poultice, compress, and herbalists of old used to use foot baths, and that's perfectly fine to do too. Teas are made in different ways. You can infusion or decoction. Infusion is where you boil the water, take it off the heat, put the herb in, let it steep for 10-15 minutes, strain and drink it. A decoction is for herbs that are harder in nature, like roots, seeds, berries, barks, where you put the herb in cold water, bring it to a boil, and let it boil for a short time, and then drink it. The harder herbs need that action in order to release the medicinal properties. Tincture is probably one of the most popular ways of taking herbs because you don't have to brew or make anything. They come ready to take. It's simply the liquid extract of an herb, and it's commonly suggested to take it by the dropper full. A common confusion for people is that the dropper full only fills the dropper about that much. And it's all about the little squeeze bulb rather than how large or how long the dropper is. Here's a 4-ounce bottle, and you see it only fills a small amount of that dropper, but it's going to be the same amount as if you had a little tiny one, because the bulbs on all of them are standard, so you get a standard dose regardless of what size tincture bottle you're using. Also, they come in capsule or tablet. We here at Herbalist use vegetarian capsules for our herbs, and salves are another good way of using herbs topically on the skin. You, of course, wouldn't want to ingest that. A compress is where you take a bundle of herbs, like tied in cheesecloth, put it into hot water like you would infuse a tea, take it out of the water and apply that bag of herbs directly to the affected area, of course, making sure that you don't have it so hot that you burn yourself. And that's a compress. A poultice, that's a poultice. A compress is where you just soak a rag in the tea and apply that. No herbs inside. But commonly, teas and tinctures are the most common ways of taking herbs. So first, we're going to talk about herbs for late pregnancy, because if the body is well nourished during pregnancy, you're going to have better chances for successful breastfeeding and breast milk supply. So make sure to keep your nutrition good, water intake good. There's a product called Pregnancy Tea Plus that we offer for the last 6 weeks of pregnancy. It's basically our pregnancy tea with the addition of squalene, which is a late pregnancy tonic. It has some slight oxytocic properties to it, which is why it's only suggested during the last 6 weeks. I've never had it start contractions in anyone in the 26 years I've been doing this, but it does help to prepare the body and the uterus for the work of labor and birth. And it's also good for postpartum recovery as well. Many midwives who suggest this to their clients have a 0 transport rate. Home birth midwives, that is, have a 0 transport rate from the ones who have reported in to us. So that's a really good product to use for late pregnancy, to make sure that you have lots of vitamins and minerals and whatnot on board to go into birth and then postpartum and lactation. So for postpartum recovery, again, I do love the pregnancy tea and the pregnancy tea plus if you have some of that left over. Both are super high in vitamins and minerals, and the red raspberry leaf in the product will help to tonify the uterus and for uterine recovery during postpartum. The postpartum sitz bath herb, this is a product that's actually won some awards for its ability to heal and to soothe and eliminate swelling in the perineal area after birth, especially if the frozen pad method is used. There's complete instructions on the label on the various ways to use them, whether it's in a sitz bath, a bathtub full of the herbs, or the frozen pad method. I had a pretty significant tear. Well, actually, yeah, it was more of a tear after I had my baby, and went all the way to my rectum, which is very uncommon. It's a long story how that all happened. But I used the frozen pads and I felt nothing. It was like I hadn't even had a baby. It was really effective and helped me heal really quick. If there's blood loss at the birth, we have an iron tonic tincture that's full of herbs that are very high in iron content. And because they are from plants, they are considered foods. So there are very little risk of overdoing it with iron. With pharmaceutical type iron supplements, you do have to be careful because you can overdose on those. But with a liquid extract iron tonic, that doesn't tend to happen because it's food. It's like having an extra helping of spinach salad at your meal. So not a big deal. Very effective, will help bring iron content back up quickly. We also have a nursing mother's liver tonic that helps to detoxify the liver if there are any medications that were given at birth, and will help you feel better after that. And then if you have breast milk supply problems, the number one thing that I recommend is nursing tea or tincture moringa blend. But I do recommend that you take this only if you have an issue with low breast milk supply. If you take herbs to increase your supply, it can pose risk for engorgement or plugged ducts or even mastitis. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's one of my philosophies. If the body knows what to do, and just let it do its thing. If you have problems, then it's appropriate to use herbs.
Pam, I'd like to just ask you a question about the iron tonic. We have so many moms who are taking the iron supplements that were prescribed, and they're so constipated.
Really constipating. And the iron tonic won't do that. Iron tonic will actually help. There's an herb in there, the yellow dock, that is a gentle stool softener. So it will not constipate. It will actually help to soften stool and make it easier to go. So that is another benefit of that. And also, one thing I wanted to mention with these products on the tinctures, the alcohol, most tinctures are extracted in alcohol, especially herbs that are harder, like the roots, the berries, the seeds, the barks. They tend to need the strength of alcohol to extract the medicinal properties. And these are safe for pregnant and breastfeeding moms to take. And the reason that is because, for example, here's a 1 ounce bottle of tincture. Oops, there we go. That is the equivalent, if you were to sit down and drink that whole bottle all at once, that would be the equivalent of having 1 beer, 1 glass of wine, 1 alcoholic beverage. But you're not doing that. You're taking literally drops of that, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And so the equivalent, the alcohol equivalent that you're getting per dose is the equivalent of eating a really ripe banana. So there's not an issue with the alcohol content for pregnant or breastfeeding moms. For products that do give themselves up more easily, like leaves or blossoms, we will offer a non-alcohol version, and those will be just as effective. The only downside of those is there is no preservative in it. So if they get touched to the mouth or something else, they can become contaminated and perhaps grow mold. That's the worst case scenario. If that happens, you'll easily be able to see it because it's like a grayish white blob that floats on the top of the tincture, or that would get stuck in the glass tube. So as you can see, the glass tube is perfectly clear. So if there's something growing in there, that's likely it. That's the downside of the non-alcohol glycerin-based tinctures. The glycerin-based tinctures are recommended for babies and kids or people who have sensitivities to alcohol. There's no alcohol in those at all. So,
Pam, would you recommend that people put it in the refrigerator then once they open it, or is that not needed?
It's not really necessary. I mean, it won't hurt anything. You can sure do that. It's recommended to keep it in a cool, dark cupboard after you open it, or even before you open it. Herbs should be kept in a cool, dark cupboard because heat can affect it if exposed to the heat for too long. But you can refrigerate it if you want, but you don't have to. Okay, there are several different options for herbs when it comes to increasing breast milk production, and they all work a little bit differently. Goat's rue is an herb that's recommended for moms who have problem with their breast milk production right from the start. They might have IGT, which is insufficient glandular tissue. They might have had previous breast surgeries, or that just might be how their body's made. So goat's rue works on the mammary glands themselves to help increase milk production, and is a great herb for moms who have problems right from the start. Excuse me. After that, I recommend the nursing tincture, moringa blend, or the tea, because it's really very gentle and very easy on the tummy. It's great for when babies are newborn because their digestive systems are sensitive, and what mom ingests can go through the breast milk to the baby. So this is a product that is great for newborn tummies or babies who have tummy sensitivities like gas, colic, reflux. It will increase the milk production while helping to alleviate gas or indigestion, and also helps mom with postpartum recovery because there is red raspberry leaf in the tincture or the tea, which is nutritive specific for the uterus, and it also helps increase or support milk production. It comes again in the tea and the tincture, same blend, 2 different ways of taking it. A lot of moms find that the tincture is very convenient because you don't have to brew it. Moms are busy and they're tired, and when you put some tea on to steep, it's very likely that she'll go off and forget that it's even there and forget to take it. And if you don't take it, it can't help. So the tincture is super handy. You can just slip it in your purse, take it with you wherever you go. Take it 2 to 3 times a day. For moms who have significant supply issues, they might want to take it every time they sit down to nurse or pump, and that's perfectly fine to do. Fenugreek is another herb that's really effective and probably one of the most popular herbs for increasing milk production. You have to use it carefully though, because using fenugreek is like turning on the faucet of breast milk production. When you take the fenugreek, the faucet is on. When you don't take it, you forget to take it, or you just stop suddenly, the faucet goes off. So you have to be real consistent with its use. Otherwise, for a lot of women, it can cause an up and down milk supply. You'll want to read, there are many nursing tinctures or teas out on the market. You want to read your labels carefully because a lot of them contain fenugreek as one of their multi-ingredient ingredients. And using that in a combination is not great because you can't regulate how much you're getting. You can use fenugreek along with some other things, but make sure the fenugreek's all by itself and not in the combination, because you need to regulate how much you're getting. For example, in a tea that has fenugreek as one of its many ingredients, you might get 2 fenugreek seeds in one, you might get 7 in another, you might get 11 in another. So that can really cause an up and down milk supply. So it's a great herb to use. Just be aware of how to use it correctly so that it works the best that it can for you. Also, fenugreek is well known for causing gas in mom or baby. If that happens, you can use the nursing tincture or tea moringa blend to help counteract it. We have a tummy tincture that works to help dispel gas that can be used along with it. If the gas is real bad, it might not be the best herb for you. Blessed thistle is another good one. This is not to be confused with milk thistle. They're both thistles, but they're completely different plants. Blessed thistle is the one that helps increase milk production. Milk thistle is a liver herb. It's not going to do anything for your milk. Blessed thistle is also a digestive bitter, and it tends to work for women who find that fenugreek doesn't work for them. Blessed thistle tends to work. So moringa is another one. It's known as a superfood around the world, super high in vitamins and minerals. I have a breakdown of some of the nutritional content that it has on our website under the information tab, and then articles and information. There's a whole write-up on moringa and how the wonderful, amazing health benefits that it has. It's a great herb for increasing milk production, especially for people who are malnourished or have weakened immune systems, because it's great for the immune system as well. Shatavari is an Ayurvedic herb that helps to increase the vital fluids in the body, breast milk being one of them. It's a fantastic herb for women who are still breastfeeding but wanting to conceive their next baby, because it's one of the best reproductive tonics in the Ayurvedic world. Excuse me.
Pam, I just wanted to add, there's a new product out by a company called Cooley Cooley, and they make moringa, and they have like energy drinks and stuff, but they make this delicious organic dark chocolate bar with moringa.
Ooh.
So what a nice way to
That is
into you. So we're going to be carrying those because I think that would be a great snack for moms.
Oh yeah, definitely. And dark chocolate's got so many health benefits in itself,
Right.
and it tastes good.
Right. You can't go wrong.
Sure. So on the other end of the spectrum, there are some moms who have an overabundance of milk supply. And if that happens, there are two herbs that I recommend, sage and parsley. Sage is very effective at decreasing milk supply, and it can help in case if you are wanting to wean, in cases of fetal demise, or if you're just overproducing and need to cut down supply. Maybe you're having engorgement or plugged ducts because there's just too much milk. So using sage, I recommend to start low. If you're just wanting to curb supply, start with a low dose and then work your way up. If you need to have more until you find the right balance to where it's curbing the supply enough, but not completely decreasing the supply.
Pam, have you had cases where moms were inadvertently eating a lot of one of these and didn't realize that would be impacting their milk production?
Yes, I was actually just going to tell about one of my clients went home for Thanksgiving dinner and had the stuffing, and she didn't realize it had some sage in it. And that was enough for her that it impacted her milk supply and it decreased it. So some women are really sensitive, others not so much, but sage and parsley are definitely two herbs that are included in meals and dishes. So, something to just be aware of. So on to plugged ducts and mastitis. Overproduction can be one cause of plugged ducts and mastitis. Maybe the breasts weren't emptied fully enough. Maybe there was missed feeding. There's a number of different reasons why. But if it does happen, it feels like one of the worst cases of flu that you've ever had. It can come on like that. It can come on so fast. So the best herb to use for that is an herb called poke root. Here it is there. And it's a very powerful herb. You only use 4 drops, just the drop, not a dropper full. A dropper full is 30 drops, but 4 drops twice a day. And it usually knocks out a case of plugged ducts or mastitis within 24 hours. It's a very powerful, effective herb. It can, if you take too much, it can cause nausea or even vomiting, but there is some leeway with this because when I was breastfeeding, had mastitis, I used poke root, and so I had it in my little shelf. One night I went and took my herbs at night in the dark, which isn't a good idea, and I had a whole dropper full down the hatch with another 30 under my tongue before I realized that, hey, this didn't taste quite right. And I looked and it was poke root. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be vomiting and puking all night long. But, I wasn't even nauseous. So it's a lymph cleanser. So if you have a sensitive system, or if your lymph system is kind of overwhelmed, and it might cause a huge detox, which can make you feel pretty sick. So it's going to vary by woman, but safe to say 4 drops twice a day in a little bit of water, and mastitis and plugged ducts clear very quickly. I have even had a woman who she was supposed to have surgery for a breast abscess, and she wanted to try the poke root first, and it worked for her, and she was able to avoid the surgery. So it's very effective, very powerful. Use it as directed.
And Pam, I may ask one clarifying question.
Sure.
I think you said to me once that the toxic parts of the plant you do not use. And I just would like you to, make a statement.
Yes.
On that.
Thank you so much. That's very true. Some parts of this plant can be toxic. The leaves and the berries, especially when they're red. We use the root, and the root is very powerful, but it's going to make you throw up before, anything happens. And again, those are not the toxic parts. Fresh root is even more potent and powerful. And we used to make it that way, but we couldn't get it one time. So we tried it with a dry root, and works just fine, works just as well. And it's a lot less intense. So thanks, Sheila, for bringing that up.
I'm actually going to interject quick too, because we have a question from Fayan on this topic. And the question is, do herbs and foods for plugged ducts also cause a decrease in milk production or letdown?
The herbs will not cause a decrease in milk production. If you have plugged ducts, I don't recommend using anything to increase production while you're dealing with mastitis and plugged ducts, because that's going to make the problem even worse. But these herbs are not known for decreasing milk production, other than the sage, because that's designed to do that. Mm-hmm. So for women who are getting plugged ducts because they're overproducing, then sage is going to help reduce the production so that it's at a good balance to provide the baby with adequate food, but not too much to where it's sitting in the breast and causing plugs and mastitis.
Thank you.
I hope that answers the question.
Thanks for that. And thank you for that question, Fayan.
Mm-hmm. Echinacea is a immune system boosting herb. It helps stimulate white cell blood production, which are our body's infection fighters. So if there is an active case of mastitis, you can use some echinacea along with the poke root to help get rid of that. Lecithin is a vitamin type supplement that's really good for the brain and the liver. And it also, it helps to smooth things out, such as breast milk, or you'll notice that they put it in chocolate to make chocolate real smooth and creamy. Well, it'll do the same for breast milk, and it will help keep it flowing and creamy and smooth so that it doesn't plug up in the milk ducts. For women who tend to get plugs chronically, like that's what happened to me. I got plugged ducts like every 3 weeks until I got it figured out. But lecithin, when I took lecithin, and I took it the entire 3 years that I was breastfeeding my daughter, I never got another plug again. And the dosage amount is going to vary per woman, but I used about 1,200 milligram capsule twice a day, every day while I was breastfeeding, and I never had another plug again. So that's a pretty important supplement for those who have that chronically.
And I'd like to just make a comment about the lecithin. It's a fat emulsifier, so it helps smooth things out, just like you said. Mm-hmm. They use it for a lot of cardiovascular health. It's really benign. So if somebody accidentally takes extra, nothing's going to happen. Most people who have chronic plug ducts are taking it with each meal, right, to help emulsify any fat also that they're ingesting. So it is a pretty cool thing that people have discovered to help with plug ducts because they could be extremely painful, as you said.
Right, right. And then using compresses to the breast, to the sore area in the breast, for example, ginger, cabbage, and plantain is really effective. Ginger helps draw blood and fluids to the area to help kind of heat that plug up and allow it to move through the plug. Cabbage is very soothing, and plantain is a wonderful healing herb.
I'd like to just add a couple things to that. I mean, that's so cool that we could have stuff in our house that we could use, right? And with the ginger, a decoction would be used, right? You would do the herb, soak it, make a compress, and then put it on.
Right, right.
And then for the cabbage, we want to bruise the cabbage. We want to roll it out, break it down, but you always want to wash it first because there can be bacteria on it. And then you put that clean cabbage on the breast 2 or 3 times a day. We're not going to use it after every single feeding because that could be something that could help with weaning, right? So we don't want to use it all the time. But cabbage has anti-inflammatory properties and also phytoestrogens that really help regulate things. And then the plantain, those would just be cleaned and applied directly to the breast after the feeding. So it's just nice that there's things that we could utilize. And thank you for bringing those up, Pam.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for that additional information. That's good info. And, rest is so important. And I know that's so hard to come by when you're a new mom. But women who get mastitis tend to be those who are doing too much. So don't feel guilty about resting, about asking for help, any of that, because you're really doing yourself and your baby a favor. When you're rested and when you're in good health, you're going to be able to be a more present mom. So allow yourself to do that.
And we wanted just to spend a couple minutes talking about probiotics. Pam, what have you found with probiotics in nursing moms?
Well, I think it's extremely important, especially if a mom has had to have antibiotics for any reason. Antibiotics do not differentiate. They kill the good bacteria along with the bad bacteria. And that allows the opportunity for the bad bacteria to kind of take over and cause yeast infections and thrush, things of that nature. So I think it's very important. And it's good for immune system health too, overall immune system and digestive health. So.
Right. And then so many of our moms do end up with cesarean sections. And 2 things happen with that. They usually are going to get IV antibiotics, which is going to kill the good flora, just like you said. And then the babies will not be getting exposed to the good flora through the birth canal unless they are actually getting that put on them, right? So they're kind of born with not having the right balance unless we do something. So probiotics are just a great way to get those good bacteria into you. I mean, people do eat fermented foods, right? And those can include natural probiotics. So fermented foods are a great source of that for everybody's health. But if you have a situation and maybe there is an imbalance, 2 things we look at. Like if we're going to look at the baby, just what you said, Pam, it does help support the normal infant microbiota, right? The good flora, which is important for that baby's overall health. We have so much now around studies looking at certain types of probiotics and bacteria and what they could do for each. Like in a recent study, they were looking at certain strains of beneficial bacteria, and it was called the Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus. Those 2 you may have heard of before, but studies have shown that those 2 have been associated in a decrease in colic and reflux. And so how simple is that? I mean, it's good for the baby's overall immune system, and we could also help that baby, because having a baby with colic can be very stressful. and also having a baby with reflux. So, to decrease that baby's pain. We do carry a product called Therabiotic by Claire Labs. It's a part of their nutraceutical line. It's fantastic. It's a powder. It has 10 strains of the beneficial bacteria, many of which were used in these studies. So it's really good for overall infant health, especially if you've been exposed to antibiotics, especially if mom or baby have thrush. So I just would like to throw that out there. For the birthing parent, there's so many reasons. Again, if a person was group strep B positive and they were given antibiotics or they had the cesarean, we're going to possibly have that imbalance. But what we didn't think about that the actual breast tissue, the mammary tissue, has flora in it. And it helps provide the good bacteria to the baby through breastfeeding. Now, that flora can get off. It's called dysbiosis, and that just means there's an imbalance. And that can be part of the reason why people get a lot of breast pain that's undiagnosed. It also can be a precursor for people who are having mastitis. So we really weren't addressing that before. We did know that a baby was getting good microorganisms through breastfeeding and helping colonize that gut. But we never thought about, like, if the mom's flora was off, what was happening. So Claire Labs came out with a product called Target B2, and that's exactly what it's designed for. They use lactic acid bacteria that was isolated from human milk, and it helps prevent and resolve some of this dysbiosis, this imbalance. This strain of Lactobacillus fermentum is clinically demonstrated to help support the breast health. So I find it interesting that we've had moms who were just desperate, worked with latch positioning, seen many doctors, and decided to take the Target B2, and their breast pain was resolved. So I love the fact that there's things that we could do just to kind of get our bodies back in balance. So I just wanted to give a plug for probiotics.
I agree completely. I think it's very important, and because you notice how many babies are diagnosed with reflux and colic. This is very likely why.
Yeah. We're just exposed to so much in our environment now, so that makes perfect sense.
Very true. Very true.
Pam and Sheila, this has been so helpful to learn a little bit more about how moms can naturally work with herbs to improve their breastfeeding health for themselves and for their infants. Thank you so much for sharing this wisdom with us. We have about 5 more minutes in our allotted time today, and we have a bunch of questions that came in through the registration process. So I wanted to see if we can address a couple of those in the remaining time that we have together. First one is from Luz. And she asks, can you combine multiple supplements at once to get different herbs in your system and increase production? Pam, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, you sure can. All of the herbs that we use and recommend are fine to combine with other things. They're safe, gentle, and each one of those herbs might have a little different action. For example, if a mom has gas or tummy troubles, or her baby has gas or tummy troubles, the nursing tea or tincture moringa blend might be great, but she's had this trouble with milk production from the very start, so she can add goat's fruit to it. So yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you for that question too.
Yeah.
Heather has asked, can supply be increased once supply has regulated around 12 weeks postpartum?
Yes, supply can be increased at any time during breastfeeding. There are even moms who haven't even given birth who are able to establish a milk supply. There's a whole regimen that goes along with doing that because they haven't had the benefit of actually giving birth and the cascade of hormones that happen with that. But yes, it's never too late to increase breast milk supply.
And I'd just like to clarify, just so people understand what we're talking about, something called induced lactation for people who are trying to bring in a milk production without the benefit of giving birth. And people will do that for many reasons, whether it's adoption or whatever, but it can be done.
Yeah. So it's never too late.
Great. You might have addressed this, but I'm just going to see if we have additional comments on this topic. Brittany's asked, should I start taking herbs to help my milk come in better or wait? And if I wait, how long should I wait before I start taking them?
Yeah, I would wait until you find out if you have a problem or not. And if you see that you have a problem with your milk production, then you can start taking herbs right away for it.
Okay. Yeah, great comments.
Yeah.
Let's see. And I think we talked quite a bit about mastitis and clogged ducts, but Zinyi has asked specifically how to deal with recurrent clogged milk ducts.
I would recommend lecithin first and foremost on an everyday basis. It's a fat emulsifier, as Sheila pointed out, which will help keep the breast milk smooth and creamy and prevent it from plugging up. Also, I would have some poke root on hand. If once you've had mastitis or a plugged duct, you know what it feels like. And if you start to feel it coming on, then start with some poke root right away. And it should help to resolve that plug and help to prevent mastitis from developing.
And I'd like to just add also, there's many reasons why a person can get a plugged duct, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that we do find that there have been some studies that looking at people eating foods that were pro-inflammatory. So their body has lots of inflammation. They're eating lots of sugars and other foods that can cause inflammation. And by taking those foods out of their diet, and that's something you could easily look up online, it did help with some of the plugged duct reoccurrence. So that's just something to think about in eating a super high fat diet. So, yeah.
Great point.
This has been such a wonderful conversation. I'm so appreciative for both of you, Pam and Sheila, for spending the time with us and sharing your wisdom and expertise. I hope that it's been beneficial to our audience. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the live stream. It looks like we may have had an issue with the Facebook broadcast. So if anyone was troubled by that, we'll definitely have a recording available and we'll share that out to everyone after the event. If you want to get in touch with us, we encourage you to follow us on our social channels. Join us next week for Ask Sheila. And don't forget to sign up for that lactation contest so that you can win all kinds of big prizes. Thank you so much, Pam, Herbal. We're so grateful to you for being our guest today. Thank you, Sheila, for making this possible and for sharing your expertise as well. And we wish all of our mamas and parents on the line with us great experiences in their breastfeeding journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.